yeah, we got it like that. Kick drum, hit your whole body go crack. The baseline move, take it off of the mat. We rock crowds every time we feel it. Boom, boom, back, yeah, we got it like that. Kick drum, hit your whole body go crack. The baseline move, take it off of the mat.
Oh yes, it's that time, and welcome to the Heatcheck. Yes, I am your host, JD Dyer, and of course, this is the NBA show that brings you all of the stuff that's happening in and around the NBA this week. And look, we've seen it all. We've seen Twitter beasts from two greats discussing their legacies. We've seen Russell Westbrook return back to OKC, his once adopted home. And of course, with the Paris games only around the corner, I had to bring in the big guns. And I promised you the big guns, and joining me on the sofa today is the man himself, BBL legend, Ontario's very own, Mike Tuck. I'm also joined by NBA 2K host and a man that's ingrained in the NBA, Mo Moonsey, and of course, royalty in the presence of us, BBL legend, I see you, and basketball connoisseur, and a journalist, of course, across NBA Global, Miss Benny Bonsu. It's good to have you all here. Nice to see you. The first time I'm seeing some of you in 2020.
Happy New Year.
Good energy, I love that. But like I said, there's breaking news across the NBA, and it's of course coming out of New Orleans. We discussed it, we've watched it, and now we possibly can get to see it. Zion Williamson's potential return, as he potentially could feature in that Utah Jazz game this week. And I had to bring in the big guns. I had to bring an NBA analyst that's on the ground with us, that understands everything that's happened with this young man this year. So here he is, ESPN senior writer, my guy, friend of the show, Mark Spears. How you doing, my guy, first of all?
What's up, brother? Can y'all help Arsenal for me?
Mark, that's a whole nother conversation. That is a whole nother conversation. But Mark, I know you've been ingrained in the NBA for so long. It's so good to have you on the show. And what you've seen from Zion Williamson, the hype around him this year. Now, how's he looking going into this game, and that potential knee injury, how's he recovered?
Well, I'm in New Orleans, Louisiana, where the Tigers won a championship in football yesterday. So now the focus for Pelicans fans goes to basketball with Zion Williamson. He's going to practice for the third time tomorrow. He's expected to, and then take place in a 5-on-5 scrimmage. So how he looks in that scrimmage could play a role on whether he could debut on Thursday against the Utah Jazz. Now, keep this in mind. The next game is Saturday against...
I know you're a busy man. I see you, always working.
Saturday, they're on national television. That's not the right game to put him in. So if they don't play him on Thursday, I think they skip forward to next week when they have other home games against the Spurs and the Nuggets. But if I'm them, forget about debuting him in New Orleans. Get him on the road. Monday at Memphis, I think, is the perfect game for him to come in, play, and debut with no pressure. No one's paying attention to what's going on in Memphis. Do it there. So I'm guessing, though, it'll probably be later next week, and they'll continue to proceed with caution with him.
What's the talk around the NBA, Mark? I mean, knee surgery in October. There was talking about his body frame and trying to actually change his body frame overall. From what you've seen and what you've heard, are you worried at all about that having a long-term impact on his career?
Look, they're not going to bring him back unless he's right. He's means too much to the franchise. This is a teenager who already has his own bodyguard and is treated like in this town already. So if he's not ready, I think he probably could have played a while ago. One thing they need to see from him, though, he's big with the lights on. He needs to work out harder behind the scenes. When you see him work out before a Lakers game or a game in New York, this dude's doing backflip dunks. But he needs to work that much harder, from what I hear, when the lights are off, and perhaps that could help expedite his process to getting onto the court. But trust me, they're not going to put him on the floor if there's a health risk. They've been cautious with him already.
Mark, I also have to ask you your opinion, because it's been split amongst the NBA community this year in terms of, are you an advocate for him playing this year? We've seen potential first overall draft picks being redshirted for a whole season. We've seen it with Blake Griffin. We've seen it with Ben Simmons as well. Are you an advocate for them playing him this year?
Hell yeah, man. I want to see him play. We've been waiting for it. This is the biggest guy to come into the game in the NBA since LeBron James. He had a bigger following at Duke last year than anybody in the NBA, LeBron, Steph, Kevin Durant included. So yeah, the whole NBA world is excited about him coming back. I trust David Griffin. He's not going to let him play if there's a health risk. So I expect him to play within the next 7 to 10 days. I don't think it's going to be this week. I hope I'm wrong because I'm in town and I'd love to see it. But I do expect him back. And this kid, remember, he had one of the greatest preseasons in NBA history. They were 4-0 in those games. He was averaging like 20 and 10 and dunking on Rudy Gobert. I know y'all want to see it. I want to see it. It's time for the Zion show to start.
Of course. Now, Mark, I haven't seen you since last June when we had a chance to catch up in San Fran, but the whole landscape in terms of the NBA has kind of shifted. Everything just seems to be so different to how it was then. As we approach the trade deadline now on the 6th of February, are you excited for some of these potential trades and some of the rumors that you're hearing on the streets? I mean, the list goes on, but I want to pick up a few names to you and you tell me what you're hearing. I mean, Kevin Love, we saw that public bust-up with the coaching staff of the Cavaliers, and potentially people are talking about him wanting to join another championship contender. What are you hearing about K-Love?
Well, first of all, the NBA trade deadline stuff expected to be bigger as it arrives, but it's not as sexy as a transfer window is right now. Kevin Love, his contract is too much. You're talking about $120 million still remaining on his deal that ends the 22-23 season for a guy who's 31 years old right now. He apologized and said he acted like a 13-year-old for his antics. However, I am keeping an eye on Portland. He is from Portland. Portland's been very embarrassing, underwhelming this year after making the West Finals. They could have interest in him, and you could trade Whiteside for him. Actually, 1-for-1. Whiteside is in the final year of his deal, so that financially works. Perhaps maybe another team to keep an eye on is the Phoenix Suns. He played with James Jones, the general manager there. They have a good relationship. But I just think ultimately people are too scared of that money at his age to take on that contract. I just think it's too risky and could cause the general manager to get fired.
Of course. Now, another name that's obviously been banding around as well, we spoke about it here on the show, is Karl Kuzma. We've seen the change in his hairstyle, but we haven't really seen a change in his game so far.
He needs to go.
Mark, what are you hearing as well? We discussed it so many times here, but what are you hearing about Kuz? It hasn't really worked out as a third option in terms of for the Lakers, but what are you kind of expecting?
Well, the Lakers are curious. They're testing the waters, but I think it'd be absolutely ridiculous to trade this young player. I know you're going to bring this name up. Oh, shoot, we might as well bring him up now. Andre Iguodala. If I'm Memphis and the Lakers want Iguodala in the worst way, that's who I want. Memphis keeps talking about that they want a first-round pick too. But if Memphis could squeeze Kuzma for Iguodala, if I'm them, I'd push the button. The scary thing about acquiring Iguodala, and the Clippers want him, and as well as I think the Dallas Mavericks, is he's in the final of his year of his deal. He's going to be a rental, and he's still living in the Bay Area, still lives in the Oakland Hills. I bumped into him at 585 Steakhouse in San Francisco. I say all that to say that when he becomes a free agent, I wouldn't be surprised if he re-signed with the Warriors.
Ooh, but Mark, listen, fam, when it comes to Kuzma, I just feel like he's a problem with the Lakers. The Lakers are trying to win the championship, and all his antics is not adding to what the team is trying to achieve. So the best thing to do, if I was LeBron, which I'm sure LeBron would do, is like ship him out and bring somebody in that's more effective.
He's been super effective to me. LA is Hollywood. They always got drama, so I don't worry about that. But who are they going to get? Like their bench? I think they should, one, him and LeBron hug and move past the tweet, But two, just add something else. Their bench is weak. They need all the help they could get. If LeBron has an injury, what do they do? When they did, it was Kuzma was the one that stepped up for him. So I just think, the antics to me aren't enough for his talent. And if their bench was better, maybe they could. But if you look at their roster, it's like LeBron's getting 30+ million. Anthony Davis is getting that. And then it just drops considerably. They got all these minimum guys. Their supporting gas is really, really questionable. DeMarcus Cousins isn't even playing. I'm just worried that if you do a move like that, it could send their bench even backwards more than it already is.
Mark, I have to ask you one more, man. I mean, look, when Ben Simmons came into the league, there were so many comparisons to LeBron James immediately. I mean, obviously, being under that same sort of Clutch Sports banner as well, it doesn't help. But sort of his demographic and his sort of value is kind of depleted this year, maybe because he doesn't want to take that 3 on. What are you kind of hearing out of Philadelphia about his trade value?
He's another guy. I'm probably in a Kuzma belt with him, too. I love him too much as a player. He's like today's Magic Johnson to me. He had a great game last night. Ben gets beat up a lot, but he's still averaging 15, 8, and 7. The latest rumor out here we've heard is Golden State Warriors. So Russell and a first for him. I think the Warriors, if that is real, should seriously consider that. They don't seem like a team that really likes young players or to develop guys. They know they have this small window where they're trying to win another championship when Steph and Clay come back. So if somehow they could get Ben Simmons shoot, you could have Steph Curry and Clay teach them how to shoot threes better. So I'm kind of keeping an eye on that. I think the Warriors, if it's possible, should make that kind of trade. I'm keeping an eye on Russell and what they might do with him. But I think the Warriors are also curious about how he could play once Steph and Clay are back, how those guys look together.
Mark, always a pleasure to have you on the show, man. What an absolute pleasure. I can't wait to see you again soon, man. Hopefully over the finals in the summer. We'll catch up soon properly, my bro.
Yeah, I'll see y'all in Chicago, right?
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. Keep your eyes posted on Arsenal as well, man. I'll see you soon.
Man.
Mark Spears, friend of the show. Look, there's so much to discuss there, and I'm sure our conversation will continue about all of these trade rumours, especially close to the deadline. But can we jump into our first subject?
Yes, sir, of course.
Let's do it, hot or not, man. Oh, so now, listen to me. I've sat there and I've tried all week with Joe to kind of think about the right way to word this, because I love Twitter beef. I love it when guys go back and forth on Twitter. And we've seen 2 big beefs this week. We've seen Stormzy and Wiley, yeah? But I'm not talking about that. I'm actually talking about Kendrick Perkins. I'm talking about Kevin Durant going head-to-head, talking about the greatest OKC player in history. Now, obviously, we've seen that franchise change so much over time, but Kendrick Perkins was defiant, saying that it was Russell Westbrook. And I have to agree with him. I think about Mr. Triple-Double 3 seasons in a row. I mean, I think, hot take, Russell Westbrook is the best OKC player in their history. Hot or not?
All together once?
Oh, we agreed. Full house. Come on.
What do you mean full house?
Cold over there.
Whoa. See, this is where sometimes I like these people on this side of the sofa, and I don't want to agree with you. But I'm gonna let you go first.
If we're talking about Mr. Thunder, of course, that is Russell Westbrook. He gave his all to that franchise. Kevin Durant, without a question of a doubt, is the most talented basketball player to wear an OKC jersey. Right? But because of the way that he left and the fans are unhappy with him, the franchise isn't going to remember him for all the great things he did whilst he was with them. The talent level of the Kevin Durant during that MVP season when he was playing in OKC, if you ask me to pick one of those 2 guys, MVP Russell Westbrook or MVP Kevin Durant, I'm picking Kevin Durant any day because he's an automatic bucket every time down the floor. I know Russell Westbrook, Mr. Triple-Double and all of that, but
I don't need to say nothing
let's
to
be
you this
real.
Week. You know why? Because I bought the big guns. Yeah? And they're going to go at you and explain to you why.
Talent-wise, as a basketball player, if we're taking franchise culture outside...
Overall, I love KD. I think KD is probably, when he's healthy, he's the best player in the NBA. Overall, KD is a better player.
There you go.
But when I think of OKC Thunder, I always see Russell Westbrook in, an OKC jersey, and I think he will go down, his legacy that he leaves behind, not just the numbers and the stats and all that, but the legacy that he left with that club. And the way that KD left that club, that's what's tarnished with his legacy.
Yeah,
he jumped ship for the team that beat him. And I think That's where her KD's legacy. Yes, KD might be the better player. If I'm starting a franchise, I would definitely go with KD over Russell Westbrook.
But getting emotional just thinking about it.
But the question is, who's the most talented?
No. I think
I said who's the greatest.
No, who is Mr. Thunder?
Who's the greatest
Well,
OKC
there's two
player?
different questions. The question they were arguing about was who's the most talented player.
No, but Mo, I
for the
think you're
Thunder.
missing a point. Because Kendrick's tweet, he made an opinion. That was his opinion. Everybody can have an opinion. We agree with Kendrick or we don't agree with Kendrick. This wasn't even about KD. KD made it about himself. It wasn't about him. I mean, when we think about OKC, we think Russell Westbrook because he didn't leave his team to dry out. Whilst Kevin Durant was up and
I'm not disagreeing with that.
But you're missing the point that this wasn't about KD. KD made it about him. And he's made it. It's not about you, bruv. It's about Russell Westbrook.
Mo versus Benny round 2.
Yeah, no.
Here we go.
Well,
Let's have the conversation.
Here's the thing. When I ask you, who's the best Miami Heat player of all time? Most people say
No,
Dwayne
that
Wade.
wasn't a question.
Okay. See, I know where you're
LeBron
going
James
with
there
this.
was
I know
more
where you're
talented
going
than
with
him
this.
at that
I know where
time.
you're going with this, but Dwayne Wade still won a ring without LeBron James
Yeah, but what I'm
there.
saying to you is, if you're talking about the talent of the player, which is what Kendrick Perkins, this has now deflected
that
from
wasn't
the
a
original
question.
My
point.
same question to you is then, who's the best player that ever played in the Golden State Warriors for the Golden State Warriors?
For me, that's Steph Curry, but there's people that will say,
Steph Curry is not better than Kevin Durant. Stop it.
are you telling me Russell Westbrook is better than Kevin Durant?
I'm not saying that.
means
I'm
you're
just saying the
saying
best
We're
person
talking
to
about
ever wear that
talent mode.
jersey.
Talent-wise, Kevin Durant is probably one of the best basketball players
That's the point I
ever.
was making.
But the point Kendrick was trying to make was like, to him, Russell Westbrook is the best player in the Thunder uniform. That's what he was trying to say.
He said the most talented player.
No, in the Thunder uniform. And I think everybody just twists this conversation, and it's not about that.
Look, we'll leave it up to topic of debate. We'll let
It's hot. It's a hot topic.
We'll let the conversation
Russell for the
continue.
win.
But wait for my next hot take. After starting the season very, very slow in Utah, they've gone on a 15-game winning streak. Well, sorry, take that back. A 15-game winning sort of streak, sort of 14-1, and also a 9-game winning streak, and undefeated since they traded for Jordan Clarkson, who we spoke about, saying that was going to be a real good acquisition. Now, my hot take to both of you is the Utah Jazz are going to make at least the Western Conference semi-finals and be a serious contender out west. I'm waiting now.
This is one I can get behind.
I like that. Shout out to Ellis right now in the studio. I know he's smiling.
He's been waiting for us to talk about the Jazz
He's
for
been
months
waiting.
now.
Can I just be in the middle?
No, go for it. You got to make a decision.
Oh, cold.
I mean, I'm just seeing the rivalry going back and forth between this side. All right, let them go first this time. Talk to us. Why is it a cold take?
I'm going cold because of the history of the Utah Jazz, but also they've gone on a hot run lately. I think they've won 14 out of the last 15 games. They had a loss to Miami at home, which isn't surprising, and I think they beat the Clippers as well. After those 2 games, every single other game has been against a sub-500 club. And I think it's a little bit of fool's gold right now. This run that they've gone on that's popped them up into the, second or third spot in the West. I think it's fool's gold, and I think the real test will come towards the end of the month when they start seeing some bigger teams. We're almost halfway through the season. We're coming up on like the 40th game. They still haven't played Houston. They still haven't played Denver.
That run
they
could
still
get a little
haven't
bit
played
sticky.
the Mavs, and those are 3 teams they're going to have to see more than once in the West. So. It's fool's gold for me right now. That's called Utah Jazz.
I mean, he made a good case, right?
I hear what you're saying. The schedule's been easy.
It has. But the last 15 games, their schedule has been nice.
But what makes me say this is a hot take is not the winning record. Take all of that aside. It's since the trade for Jordan Clarkson, he's been an X factor off the bench. He's come into that 6-man role. He's shooting an astronomical percentage from 3-point as well. So that's one factor. But the other thing for me, Donovan Mitchell has really stepped up this year. You can tell that, with young players like a Jaylen Brown this year, Donovan Mitchell's in that same category where you can see the game has slowed down for him. So now he's making reads and decisions within that game, operating the pick and roll like a more veteran player than he would have in previous years. Add to that Bogdanovic, one of the best acquisitions of the summer. He's scoring at a crazy rate as well, and he's effective and efficient from downtown. Then you've got the big man in the middle, Rudy Gobert, Defensive Player of the Year, 2-time. As Anthony Joshua says, 2-time Defensive Player of the Year. He's there. And then you add Mike Conley. He's struggled, but he's had injuries. Once he comes back into that side, gets integrated, and then, of course, Jingles, Joe Ingles, the glue guy, bringing it all together. I got a lot of love for Jingles out there. But, that starting 5, that's a very competitive starting 5. There's not many flaws you can pick out of that lineup, and I know they've had an easy schedule, and maybe
their
that's
7 is deep.
Yeah,
they can keep going.
Exactly, and then they've had other guys like O'Neal off the bench or Jiang off the bench, and this has been an easy stretch of games, but maybe that's helped them build the momentum that they need to roll on to the second half of the season. Because we've seen in previous seasons, teams start hot and then go cold.
She's ready to go for you, so I just got to let her go.
No. I agree with what Mo was saying because that team is deep and they're special and you're building something special. But the top 4 teams, they're going to find it very hard to beat them to go through to the semi-finals. What they're doing this year is great, maybe for next year. But for this year, they're not going to make it to the semi-finals because they're going to try and beat Denver. I don't see that happening. Clippers, I don't see that happening. Lakers, I don't see that happening. And then the Mavs, maybe they could match with the Mavs, but they're not going to make the semi-finals. What are you doing special, but not this year?
This is what I love, Hot or Not. This right here is why I love Hot or Not. And as much as I've enjoyed it, can we jump into our next segment for the first time this year as well? For the first time, you had a chance to do Who's Got Game, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Special feature featuring Josh Denzel, man. Let's dive in.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. I'm here with a very special guest, fresh home from Saudi Arabia himself, is Mr. Josh Denzel. Thank you for joining us, bro.
What's going on, boss?
We're getting into another game of Who's Got Game. We're playing some NBA 2K action, and we're going to get straight into it.
Yeah,
I think everyone knows who you are in the country by this point, so we're getting straight into it. You're going to pick a team. Do you have a team that you support?
I'm going to have to go with the Lakers, bro.
You're a Lakers guy?
I'm a Lakers guy.
Is that a LeBron Lakers guy or always been a Lakers guy?
No, I'm an LA man.
Yeah?
In general, but LeBron is and the brow, come on.
The brow. What a nickname as well.
Yeah, I know.
What a nickname.
This is the look I'm going for. I might have to.
Yeah?
Get,
you got the hat covering it. I see you.
It's a work in progress, bro. It's a work in progress.
I know you went to All-Star Weekend last season.
All-Star Weekend.
Tell me about that experience. What was that like?
It's mad. You never think you're going to see, like, it's so rare to see. Like, you never get it in football or any other sport, really. But you get to see, like, the top players all on one court, all showing out. And it's like a little bit of a party atmosphere, isn't it? So, like, you've got, like, people taking it seriously, but there's like, an element of, like, you know, who's got the most sauce, who's got the most swag, who's had a good season. Like, Giannis obviously was shutting it down. We're gonna get serious right now.
He's been killing
it. And in general, it's just like, especially just as like a basketball fan as a whole, it's, you know what I mean, it's nice to see like the Hardens of this world. Oh.
He's going for it straight away.
Yeah, come on.
Straight away, okay, I see.
Well, look, 3-point lead.
I know
you thought you had this, bro. You thought you had this.
Okay, we'll get going.
Like Luka Doncic, and like we sat down with a few of the players, especially some like the rising ballers, and it's like.
What was it like sitting down with Luka? Because he's killing it right now. He's taking the league by storm.
Oh, sad. Do you know what it is? Like, it's just they've got, like, you can tell, like, these young guys have got so much passion. And, like, they're striving for greatness. They just want to, they want to be recognised the best regardless of age, regardless of experience. Like, you might be in the league 2 years, you might be in the league 1 year, but they're like, listen, I'm still mixing it with the big boys, with the LeBrons of this world. You know what I mean? So you can tell, like, they've just got a crazy, crazy drive.
I know you do a lot of football stuff.
Yeah.
I see you with all the footballers all the time. What would be your thoughts on a football All-Star Weekend?
It would be mad. Like, just even like a north, east, south.
Yeah, I'm talking like London versus outside of London.
London versus outside of London. That would be massive because, like, the amount of talent for what, it's like 8 London teams, I think, and then too sorry. And then obviously you got the Uniteds, the Liverpools of this world, even the Leicesters. Like, there's some serious players, and like the idea is like, how many people would it bring out? Like, I would want to watch that. Like, how many people? Like, if you there's like a dunk competition or,
do you mean it'd be like a free kick, maybe a free kick competition,
like a skills competition? You know, back in the day, you have like, skills school and that.
Yeah.
So I reckon that would be mad. I would love to see it. I think it could happen.
Fashion and basketball heavily linked, and
of course,
you know, basketball and football are becoming more and more linked nowadays with the friendships between players and all of that. And I think nothing symbolises it more than the PSG and Jordan collaboration.
Oh, that was sick.
What are your thoughts on that? Because I think that's only going to keep growing and growing.
Oh, well done. Yeah, 100% like that. Like the PSG, Jordan, like that. Who would have thought that a basketball player would create a brand that would then be one of the title sponsors of a football team,
and
one of the biggest
not
football
just
teams.
a football team,
like one of the biggest, like the only team, and one of the biggest and most successful clubs in Europe.
But anyway, man, it's been a pleasure having you in.
Guy, thanks for walking me. That's really put my confidence up.
Well, I know you were distracted talking and that.
Yeah, that was it.
It's a tricky skill to manage, but I'm sure we'll have some more games and we'll get into it again. But thanks for coming through, my brother.
I loved you.
Anyway, take care. For you guys at home, Josh, where can they check out your stuff?
At Josh Denzel on Instagram. Make sure you hit me up. Basketball content, sport content galore. Occasional beach picture, you know.
Yeah, this guy's at every sporting event. I'll see Josh's snaps. He's either at the biggest sporting events in the world or on a yacht or at the beach or something like that.
We try and live a good life.
And you can catch that full feature between our very own Mo Moonty and Josh Denzel on the Sky Sports YouTube channel. That'll be up from later on today, but I'm not gonna lie to you, it looks hella fun. Like, why haven't I had my invite yet?
You gotta come get involved, man.
I'm just waiting.
Guy,
like, I see you jumping around with all these different guys. Like, I wanted to feel special. I wanted you to text me
world,
and let me know.
Let me know when you're free, we'll play, yeah?
But in fairness,
I'm playing.
Josh has actually given me the perfect segue to our next segment, posted up, because he's talking about the All-Star Weekend. So y'all ready?
Yes, sir.
Let's do this. Yes, All-Star Weekend in Chicago this year. It's going to be fire. Well, actually, to be honest, it's probably going to be really, really, really cold. But Stephen A. Smith has been announced as one of their celebrity head coaches and all of it. So I'm excited. I cannot wait to get down there and see everything that's going to unfold that weekend. But CJ McCollum has actually come up with one of the greatest ideas, I think, in terms of changing possibly some of the formats for that weekend. And talking about a sort of a king of the court, we've all been there, one-on-one format in terms of players against players to see who's actually the best one-on-one player in the league. Now, it created, obviously, the perfect question. Who is the king of the court in the NBA, and which one-on-one matchup would you like to see the most in the NBA? I'm gonna come to you later. Benny, come to us first.
Wow, I think for me it would be the best two that we have now. Ooh. So for me it would be LeBron versus Kawhi.
Wow.
I think that would be great. I mean, if you've ever been to an NBA All-Star Weekend, it's full of activities, but I think that one will have everybody just like, that's the ticket you want to go see.
Especially after Kawhi calling him out after the Christmas game. Hey, I'm loving that. That's a nice little segue there.
The best one-on-one you're ever going to see.
Yeah, I think it's a tough one because there's so many different positions, so many different matchups. I think you could do guards, wings, and then you could do bigs or, unicorns. Karl Anthony Towns versus Embiid, something like that. But I think, at the All-Star Weekend, you've got the three-point shooting competition, so you got shooting, you got the dunk competition, so you got dunking. The skills comp, okay, what we want to see is some handles, and I think the two best guys for that would be Harden versus Kyrie.
Ooh, that's a good one.
That matchup
that had me excited. That had me excited. That's two of the best ISO players to ever play in the league.
In terms of creating their own shots, that would be a fun matchup for me.
Okay, that's a nice one. I like that.
I've got a little different angle for this.
Talk to me.
Obviously, we see a lot of players getting competitive with each other during games, getting into it. We saw Jimmy Butler blowing kisses at TJ Warren in the game last week. And I'm not saying TJ Warren needs to be invited, but I think this is a great opportunity for players when they've got their beefs to settle it on the court. So I want to see Cat going up against Joel Embiid.
My guy.
I want to see.
Catch him in the two-way. Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying.
I want to see Russell Westbrook going up against Dame or against Pat Beverly. I want to see CP3 and Rondo going at it because you've seen them get heated in games, and what better way to decide who's the best. The thing is, bro,
we actually put it to the public and let the public obviously jump in as well and put their polls out there and sort of their opinions for what they'd love to see. And as you can turn around and say, LeBron had to be involved, as you would expect. But everyone is saying he wants to see the one-on-one with Giannis.
That's the king and the prince, do you know what I mean?
Ooh, LeBron and Giannis?
LeBron versus Giannis, one-on-one. I mean, everyone's turned around and said LeBron is probably the most dominant player that they've ever seen dribbling or going towards the paint. But ever since Shaquille O'Neal or maybe Giannis has been in that conversation. So
LeBron's not a one-on-one guy though. He's a team player. He prides himself on dishing the ball.
There we go.
Guys like Harden, guys like Curry, they're one-on-one guys. And of course, we're forgetting that KD, if he was healthy, one-on-one, he's a nightmare because he can shoot, he can get to anywhere. He's got the height, he's got the length.
KD with who though?
KD against anyone, one-on-one. Who can guard KD one-on-one?
I mean, I do like your angle though, man. I'm someone that I believe if they're gonna take it to the internet, you might as well settle it in person.
That's what I'm saying.
And Cat versus Joel Embiid. That is two of the most talented
That's
big men
drama
ever.
you don't want,
What
though.
about Jokic, too? You got to throw him in there. That'd be a tough one-on-one matchup for any big. So
I'm telling you.
there's so many different outcomes with that. I think it's really
I'm
interesting.
just confused. What, no conversation about Luka? Luka not thrown into the frame whatsoever? Taking the NBA by storm this year?
Luka gets beat up enough. I think he needs to rest a little bit. Do you know what I'm saying? Every time I see a Mavs game, they're throwing him to the floor whenever he tries to the bucket. We need to let that man rest for the second half of the season.
Oh, man. Well, look, hopefully CJ's great idea actually does come through to fruition and we actually do get to see this. I mean, the king of the court, that would create so many highlight reels. It'd be unbelievable. But look, there's still games to approach this weekend. We still got things we need to talk about. So can we jump into our primetime preview? So live on Sky Sports this weekend, hopefully, we're praying we just heard from Mark Spears, but potentially we could see Zion on our screens for the first time in the UK on Sky Sports Arena and Sky Sports YouTube this weekend as the LA Clippers face up against the New Orleans Pelicans. Zion potentially could be in the building and playing for the first time on our UK screens Saturday night, 8:30 tip-off. And that's before my favourite man in the NBA right now, Sunday night, the man they say Jimmy Buckets, faces up against the Miami Heat, faced up against the San Antonio Spurs at 8 o'clock from Sky Sports Arena as well. He's the man with no holding back on his words. So you can imagine he's going to bring some noise this weekend. I mean, Mo, I'm going to come to you first. Talk to us about the potential we could see Zion this weekend.
We could see a star-studded matchup. We're talking about All-Star Weekend, but we're talking about a game where we could potentially see, 3 star-caliber players with Zion there, and then, of course, the 2 guys at the Clippers, and then Brandon Ingram's been balling out. We've got Lonzo, who's picked up his play, and he's playing much better than he ever has before. So it's an exciting matchup, The Clippers have been a little bit inconsistent compared to what we all expected coming into this season. New Orleans have struggled, but, as Mark was saying earlier, Zion in that preseason, if he touches this court, it's going to be crazy. It's going to cause real problems for the defense, his off-ball movement, and, of course, his high-flying dunks will be quite a spectacle. So that is must-watch TV, man. I'm going to be locked in.
And Benny, we spoke about earlier on in the season about that load management that the Clippers seem to be trying to do this year. I mean, interesting game this weekend. How are you seeing them handling the load management?
Clippers need to sort out whatever it is that's going on right now in the locker room, because the conversation is now also turned whether Kawhi is a good leader, away on and off the court, field of play. I don't know what's going on, but they need to sort it out. I don't know whether Doc Rivers is now going to start training Kawhi and Paul George together, because at the moment they're doing it separately and it's not working. That needs to work. And especially if Zion is back and you're playing against them, on Thursday night, if this kid is healthy, is a problem for them, and it's going to be really good. But you know what, Clippers, I still have hope for them. I want them to win because there's so much conversation around it, but they need to sort out the issues.
And Mike, we saw Jimmy Buckets this week, obviously face up against TJ Warren. I mean, it was an interesting, but I just love his attitude. I just love the fact that he doesn't hold back both on the court and off the court. Obviously, he faces up this weekend in our Sunday evening game. How excited are you to see him in action?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great matchup, him versus DeRozan. I think Miami, for me, they've been kind of the surprise story of the year. This coming out of the East, no one was really expecting much from them, but, in the true Jimmy Butler fashion, he's just gone out there and kind of taken the world by storm with his attitude and the grit that he plays with. I think it's going to be a good game. San Antonio have had some struggles this season, and we don't really know. There's been a lot of trade rumors and things like that, but they are a team. They've got pop. They can show up to play every night. So it'll be a great matchup.
And Benny, what are you seeing from Miami this year? Obviously, they've made their own case in the East this year. I mean, strong start. I mean, no real superstars there apart from Jimmy Butler, though.
It's special in Miami. I mean, like Mike, nobody is, Dwayne Wade left and we just thought, okay, give him another year or two to rebuild, do something. And then over the start of the season till now, they're making noise, but they're making the right noises. They're going to make it out of the East. And, we talk about the San Antonio Spurs. I feel like they're doing a game plan. They've been quiet. And then when it comes to playoff time, it's going to be a problem for everybody else. But when it comes to Miami, something is happening. And it's very special. And I love the fact that Jimmy is over there, because that team, Udonis, being a leader in the locker room and not as loud on the field of play, that it's a group of men that work hard. They don't complain. They just make things happen. I think they're going to be very special.
Tyler Hero, Kendrick Nunn, Duncan Robinson. We've spoken about it this year. These guys coming out of that Heat franchise is showing out.
There.
Yeah.
Bam Adebayo.
That's your guy right there. I was letting you for the alley-oop.
I got that. But now the Heat have been balling. One thing they need to really take care of, though, is taking care of the ball. that might be their downfall. I've seen quite a few turnovers from their side. That's one thing they really need to lock down on that if they want to be a serious contender. And also, you know, the rookies don't have that much experience heading into the playoffs. But looking at Sunday's matchup, the Spurs have picked up their scoring. They've managed to somehow, from a team that doesn't shoot many three-pointers, become one of the best three-point shooting teams in the league over the past month. But their defense still lets them down. They've got LaMarcus Aldridge, DeMar DeRozan, both players who can score, but not necessarily great defenders. So, you know, I'm thinking Miami are going to get the edge in this one, but it's going to be fun anyway because Coach Pop always prepares his teams.
I mean, look, as much as the action is going to be incredible this weekend, of course, next week is the Paris game. So there's no better time to talk about that Paris game that we are so much looking forward to. Coming up live only on Sky Sports. I mean, first of all, we've got the Heatcheck on Sky Sports YouTube. We're doing a very special edition in Paris on Thursday, the 23rd of January. That'll be live on Sky Sports YouTube all day with the main man, Muggsy Bogues. Can't wait to see him again. And then we roll into the game. On Friday night, Giannis and Co will be in action. Friday, the 24th of January, the first time ever in Paris, the NBA Paris Games, Milwaukee against Charlotte, live from Sky Sports at 7:30. We cannot wait. I mean, we'll be there, we'll be excited, man. Look, it's been a pleasure to have you on the sofa today. Shout out to Mark Spears as well, who Skyped into us. We cannot wait for next week's action. Make sure you tune into the primetime action we have as well this weekend. And on to Paris, man.
Sky Sports. Feel it all.